Hey guys, so today I just want to talk about HTML. HTML, which stands for Hypertext Markup Language. And I think that actually understanding HTML would help you understand more complex ideas like XML. And I can maybe make my screen a little bigger so you can see it. So, um, I want to work on envelopes today so that I can create pretty, envelopes from like not really a database, but, like a feed of information. And so, but I'm just going to start um, by, you know, putting something out there to get the spacing right and everything. And and I have this ThinkPad that is running the Apache server, and it's actually not nearly as complicated as you might imagine, right? So you see, in Unix, you have this is your directories. They look a little different from the directories in Windows, and you can just kind of move around with the CD, which stands for change directory. And so I have made a directory called envelope, and the web server is now pointing to it, and it's empty, right? This is what an empty directory looks like in Apache. It just this default thing it shows. And if I say, I'm going to use this command called vi, which lets me edit things. And for showing you stuff, I think it might be simpler than the very heavy IDE Visual Studio solution that is incredibly popular, and I have been sort of shamed at times, or almost not shamed, but people were concerned that they couldn't understand what I was typing by looking at the screen. But I'm going to maybe push back on that a little bit. So I use this command called vi. I've used it forever. And I want to create a file called, let's say it's called file .txt, right, to say that it is a text file. And I'm going to say this is the stuff, right? And then I have little commands. This is old school, right? It's like Lotus 1, 2, 3 sort of. You anyway. WQ is to write and quit. So now, if I do ls to list the files in my directory, I see one called file. But we don't see it here until, and I can use my keys to say Control R. I refresh, and boom, we have now in this directory we have a file called file. And if we were to look at it, I mean, guess what's there, right? It's it's that. It's exactly what we saw here, right? No big mystery there. So now we want to, instead of being a text file though, let's move it, which is how you rename it. We're going to move it, and see what I did there. If I type MV for move and I hit F and then hit tab with my little pinky, I hit tab and boom, file. I do it again, and now I just backspace and say HTML, right? So now it's called file.html. So let's see if that changes anything. Just kind of play with it. And well, I changed the name. So again, refresh. The name is now file.html. Click on it, and not too exciting. So what you need to do is now come into this file and add some stuff to it. And you want to mark things. You want to mark it up. Markup. You're putting things into the file to tell it about how to show this. So you can say HTML, and my happy little VI, see it, is able to makes it different colors, makes it pretty. Not as pretty as on the Windows, but that's okay. And then we refresh. It still looks the same, right? Because even though it's file.html, it and let's bump it up a little bit, and this is usually what you see, right? So now within the HTML it says that, but let's say we want to make it bold, okay? So I think you can say this, maybe just that, yeah. B for bold. Although I believe that folks would wag their finger at me and say, no, 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 you're not supposed to use that anymore because the people at the, you know, consortium of smart folk say, don't use that anymore. But I think it still works. Backwards compatibility, baby. See, now it's bold, right? And you can do things, and then it just goes on from there, right? Like, um, let's say you want to make a little line that goes across the string, right? That's HR, I believe. Let's see how good I am at this. See? So now we're cooking. And then, of course, since it's a web page, all web pages point where? To Google. Right? So I'm just kidding about that part. But now I have a new tag, right? This A tag. I don't really know why it's called A, but it seems might as well, right? And and you just learn. You can learn how to do this, just like how you learn to talk. You learn to write. You learn to use the telephone. You learn to send an email. You can learn this. I think it's a joy to work with, and it's also all of this is really free. You don't have to pay anybody for this, and that can be problematic because sometimes people want you to pay, right? So we're going to have a nice little link to Google if you want to go from our web page to Google, see, and then that's a hyperlink, right? Hyperlink, hypertext, and so then after a while, and you can do all sorts of things like you could create a table, um, and then everything opens and closes. Almost everything, right? This HR tag didn't open and close, but almost everything else does, right? So you say table, and we want to give it a border, and then you say row, and within the row, and you see how it's just spacing it out. And I've done this many times, over and over again, for a long time. Long time. But no, but this is very much discouraged. This is wildly discouraged because you need to be using all these tools and things, but they make everything so much more complicated. I mean, how smart do you have to be? How savvy do you have to be to look at this and see if there's a virus in this, right? Because you can read it. You can read the markup and you don't see anything, so it must be okay, right? So let's take a look at what that is. And of course, this is not an envelope, but you see you have a crude little table there. Now, what if, let's just do another, uh, after the table, let's do another line. Of course, you can do colors and images and all sorts of stuff like that. Now, um, let's say that what if you make up uh, what if you make up something to put in that tag, right? Like what if instead of table or HR or whatever you say, bubble gum, right? it doesn't, see, first of all, it doesn't turn it yellow in the browser, which means that it's not crazy happy about the fact that I typed bubblegum. But, and you come here, right, and you see, you know, nothing happened. Watermelon bubblegum. So, but, aha. So this watermelon then is tagged under bubblegum. But HTML doesn't care about that. So what you have, then you have XML, which, and this is very simple, and anybody who's an XML super genius is going to say, John, but so instead of having instructions on how to show you what the web page is like, right, which is what this is, these are all instructions to control the look and the feel of the page. But now it's a different idea, right? Now we're putting data in there. And so, see, I can do a trick here. Watch this. So I'm going to say, let's call it XML. See how much trouble I can get in here. Okay. And let's take that out of the HTML. That wasn't super helpful. Right? And then so now we don't have any bubblegum. But instead of HTML, I'm sorry, we don't have any tags. We're going to say XML, right? And I haven't looked at this stuff in years, so who knows what's going to happen. So we come back to our directory here. And now we can browse and we see a file called file.xml. If we look at it, it does something different. So it tries to interpret the XML file in the way that it tried to interpret the HTML file, and it throws up an error. It says it doesn't have any, well, a suggestion. It says it doesn't have any style. So it's going to show me the document tree, right? XML. See what happened there? I have a happy little clickety-click where I can show you bubblegum, you know, or whatever. And then I can say, okay, so bubblegum, well, that's really, let's call bubblegum food, right? That's part of food. And see how it moves it around for me? So VI is very happy with the XML format, right? And then I refresh, and now we begin to have this tree of stuff we're building, right? XML, food, bubblegum. But you can't, but so then the question is, okay, and I guess I could maybe make a little bit better example. See, so it's interesting. Okay, so now, really, probably I didn't do this quite right. Let's see. I say that is candy. It's not bubblegum. See, so it's interesting because, you know, what are the rules, right? And I'm going to say that bubblegum is candy. Now, that may or may not be quite the way you're supposed to do this. You know, it gets really interesting because when do you go from, you know, this tree of XML data to the stuff, right? And of course, that's the details, right? But I'm just doing the big picture, right? So this is XML markup, and you want, and then you would have some other type of bubble gum besides watermelon, right? And you can have, see, and it didn't give me my happy spaces, but that's okay. There you go. Okay. And then you could have some other type of candy that you put here, right? Instead of bubble gum, it could be a mint or something, you know. And then what kind of mint? Chocolate, I guess. I don't know. And so on and so forth. And so you can just kind of come back and refresh this, and so this is so XML is storing your data, but then the question is, how do you read that XML file and get it into the HTML? And that's where it gets really dicey. And you have like XSLT and all this stuff. And I haven't looked at that part in years, and I know some other folks are much better at this than I am. But there are other ways to do things, right? Like uh, there's JSON. Here you go. So I typed JQ. I'm gonna switch gears into JSON now, right? So so here's an example. So it's so I just typed JQ, and it said I don't have enough information. You have to actually have some JSON. So um, I forget what so JSON then is JS, let's say. So instead of XML, you have this JSON format, and I can use this command, and it will interpret it, right? So, and then also, of course, your web to refresh. Your web will try to interpret JSON too, to a degree. It doesn't always do a great job, unless you use JavaScript. So if you use JavaScript, then you can put the JavaScript in your uh, in your file, and the JavaScript runs in your browser. So that's why I like JavaScript, because you can kind of make stuff work a lot easier. XML is beautiful. Um, you know, it's beautiful structure, and it's probably better. It's probably better. It is the foundation similar to HTML, but yet at the end of the day, you have to use what is. I get the luxury um, of using something that makes more sense to me, and so that would be JavaScript. And what I might do then is say, okay, I'm going to have a div ID equals stuff, let's say, and I close that out. So now this little place down here is called stuff, and I can say script, which it automatically thinks I'm talking about JavaScript, and then I can say fetch whatever that file name was. I think it was test. Then, and I'm probably not going to remember all of the rest of this as easily. But I think you say something like this, right? You say what are you going to do with what you fetch out of that JavaScript, and you stick it over in there. Um, and let's see. Usually what I do next is console log. And this strange stuff that you have to type over and over again, and that's called an anti-pattern. And the double-out super geniuses don't like that, but life goes on. So, oh, I did it backwards. So yeah, X. So I'm going to send it to the console just to see what I've got. And I think that would work. The console is here, not labeled console, labeled inspect, because why not? And this is where you can see the JavaScript that's running on your machine, right? So I look here and reload. Actually, I didn't want to reload, so file.text. And see, so this is the response in the console that I see from trying to read in that test.js file. And it said that it was okay, and you know, if you keep sort of typing stuff into here, you can get it to update that page. I'm not going to go that far. I'm not. I can. Right. 100%. So, but my point here is that this is why I prefer JSON, which is JavaScript something something, uh, JavaScript object notation. Let's say that sounds good. That's why I prefer it to XML, because I can just type away and get the data in and out of it really easily, and I can you know, I can query it from the command. I can do all these things here, my happy place in the console, and see all the stuff. And you can nest it, right? That's what they call nesting it, where you have just layers and layers of it. But I'm not gonna do that right now. I hope this was helpful. I hope that this was interesting. And what I see in the industry is best practices are killing us. It's running with the herd. It's doing what everybody else is doing. It's doing the safest thing, and also once you learn how to do something that is, in my opinion, needlessly complicated, then you're sort of the god of that thing, right? And you have job security. But because let's face it, nobody wants to have employees. Why would you want employees uh, if you didn't need them? Nobody wants to pay programmers. They have to, because the programmers, and it's a happy confluence of, you know, it's like a keystone with all the stones around it that holds the arch in place. You can't change any of the things in this industry standard best practice world to just do simple, easy things that are not prone to bugs or being hacked. You can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. You'll get fired if you try. Well, you'll be told not to, and then you'll disobey that for some stupid reason, and then you'll get fired. So you have to do things in a very strange, convoluted way that seems to use 40,000 files when you need two, but then the 40,000 files get compressed down and scraped away and changed or transpiled, or all sorts of needless stuff. Or you have to use these. You have to. It's a heavy back-end solution. So I am an advocate of a very light solution put into an environment that can be easily audited, 147% understood to not change, for various reasons that I can show people, and just easy to use, joyful, fun. I mean, um, it's the way I operate. And if so, here's the thing. If you wanna hire me for something, I cost probably about 10 times what you're thinking that I cost, right? If you want to work with me as a partner and as a collaborator, not as a leader, you're not my leader, unless you pay 10 times what you think I'm worth. then 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 that's the only. There's no other road forward at this point. I don't see it. I'm sorry. I wish there was. I tried. I just couldn't do it. Hey, anyway, as we say here in Texas, you have a blessed day. Let's clickety click out of here.